The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
By tomorrow, I will rule the world!
You think he's gone? He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone.
Is this some radical new therapy?
You see?
Well, I must have not been paying attention when you were just talking to me.
I swear to God, that never gets old. Because
no, it doesn't.
It never gets old. No matter how many times I hear that, he's never gone.
Yeah.
Because in my head, I can see like the hood boogers and all my enemies. We thought we had him, but he's not gone yet. What do you mean he's not gone? He's never gone. Oh, that's great. Good stuff.
Love that song.
What happened?
I love that song.
All right, you're going to have to... you're not going to talk now, but you have to pull that all the way up to your lips now. There you go.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Like this? Yep, perfect.
Yep, there you go.
Perfect.
All right, we got a lot to get to today, so we're going to have to forego the bopper pause.
All right,
Hi, how you guys doing? My name's Tom Duggan with the Paying Attention Podcast. Hi, atop Two Guys Smoke Shop at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. We've got a very busy show today. In fact, I wish I had two shows. It's funny how sometimes I come in, I got nothing to talk about, and then there were days like today when I could fill three shows with what we've got. So we're going to have to bounce around a little bit, and then I've got a couple of guests in the studio. Before we start, I want to thank our sponsors, Enterprise Bank. I love Enterprise Bank. I moved all of my business and my personal accounts from Santander to Enterprise Bank because all of these corporate banks, all of them, they're all instituting these new rules, and they claim it's for your protection. So you know what I did? I called them and said, stop protecting me. Zero out all my accounts, transfer everything over to Enterprise Bank, and now I do all my banking with Enterprise Bank in Lawrence. But also, the people over at Enterprise Bank in Methuen help the people at Enterprise Bank Lawrence in feeding the homeless. And so we really appreciate that they're doing that. Also want to thank W3ON, the guys who run my website. I appreciate all the help they've given me this week. Stadium Chiropractic, A&J Goodwin Plumbing, Bonfire Wellness Center, which I think I'm going to go, I think either this weekend or next weekend. I'm going to Bonfire Wellness Center to get some physical therapy. Chris's Barbershop in Salem, New Hampshire. Prime Insurance, the Mercurio Law Office in North Reading. Patrick's Eatery, which used to be Harrison's. At least twice a week I'm there. And by the way, they've got Monier's, Lebanese food, I think, on Wednesday. They've got, on Monday, they don't do beef, but they do the lobster rolls, which are very, very good. Not a big fan of lobster rolls, but I like theirs. And they've got a whole bunch of other things now, like smash burgers. I don't even know what a smash burger is. Is it just a... Do you know what a smash burger is? Is it just a hamburger with a different name? Because it kind of looks like it.
There we go. If I turn my microphone on, it works. Funny that. As far as I know, it's the preparation of it. So they actually do smash it. So they have like a thing that flattens it. So it's the way...
Oh, like a press?
Yeah, they press it down. So a smash burger generally, traditionally, I think, is, like they're pressed.
So all it is a hamburger that's been pressed down.
But I think the way they cook it as well. If you were to Google it, I'm sure there's
all right, okay, fair enough.
There is something.
I had no idea what it was, but I looked at the picture and it just looked like a regular hamburger to me.
Burger.
All right, smash burgers at Patrick's Eatery.
Yeah.
They also do breakfast, by the way. They're like now the premier place to go for breakfast in the morning. I've been going there a lot. Who else do we have? Pleasant Valley Landscaping Contractors, AFC Urgent Care. Zaka will be here next week. We already firmed it up. We got Zaka from AFC Urgent Care. And boy, what a compelling story that guy's got. He's an American immigrant. Comes here, he now owns AFC Urgent Care, and they're offering immigration physicals for people that want to become citizens. How about that, right? The guy came here, he's an immigrant, and now he's trying to help other immigrants. I love it. It's one of those kind of stories that I just love. Clear Path for Veterans New England, Tomo and Shaken Seafood. Free shout out to my friend, attorney Paul Lambert, EIS, Investigation and Gun Training, Marcet & Son Construction, the Zanny Pesci Law Office, and Century 21, McLennan Real Estate. Also, a free shout out to JG's Ice Cream. Thank you, ladies, for bringing me my JG's Ice Cream today. We love them. I love them. And they're open year round, by the way, so not just in the summer. All right, we got a bunch of things to get to. So where do we go first? Do we talk about the Hoodburger body cam footage and show that? Do we do the I'm affiliated with the FBI video? Or, you know what, let's do this. Let's do, I'm going to show you a report This is from Fox 25. I believe this ran yesterday. And boy, there's a lot to unpack in this. You think this is a simple story. It's really kind of not.
Hampshire teacher is under investigation after video surfaced of her using a racial slur. The video was sent to us by a concerned viewer. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Keller. Boston 25 News reporter Christine McCarthy went to the school committee meeting tonight for answers.
We now know this teacher is off the job as the district investigates. Just what her future is, though, remains
Can you pause that for a
unclear.
second?
And I'll make sure
let it go.
I've collected. James King.
A social media rant from a Salem, New Hampshire teacher using the N-word has been circulating online. That teacher, Amy Banks, is a 7th grade teacher at the Woodbury School. While she wouldn't comment on the video to us by phone, school committee chair Mike Carney is denouncing it.
It was disturbing. All I can say, it's being investigated right now. It's a personnel issue.
All right, can you pause that? So I was going to run the whole thing and then talk about it, but we got to do it along the way because this is making me crazy. First of all, this is a teacher who used a racial slur, but then they blurted out that they beeped out the slur. I don't know why they did that. We're all grown-ups. We all know what the words are, but they had to bleep it out. Okay, fine. Why is she under suspension for taking advantage of her First Amendment right while she's not at work? She's clearly mad about some guy named James. We don't know who James is. I suspect if you drill down into the story, you're going to find James also works at the school department, and that's why they're really getting involved. He's probably one of her overlings, maybe a principal or assistant principal or an administrator. But think about this for a minute. I'm not condoning the words that she uses, but they're words. Folks, they're words. We have a First Amendment in this country. You're allowed to say what you want. You're allowed to say what you believe. You're allowed to express yourself, no matter how despicably you express yourself. And it should have nothing to do with the job that you do when you go to work in the morning unless you do it at work. If she stood in front of a group of students and said, that guy's an N-word, then fine. Now you've got something you can look at. But here's the other thing that the chairman, this genius who's the chairman of the school committee here in Salem, New Hampshire, it's under investigation. What are you investigating? We saw the video. What's there to investigate? Oh, you guys need overtime. Oh, you guys need to make it look like you're doing something, right? Am I wrong about this? Does anybody think that I'm being wrong about any of this? Again, I'm not condoning the word that she used. But you have a First Amendment friggin' right to say whatever you want when you're not at work. Now, when you're at work, you don't have a First Amendment right? Because your employer has the right to say how you comport yourself with either your customers or, in this case, your students, which would technically be your customers, right? How you comport yourself at work is very different. If you're a teacher, you can't come walking into the classroom and start talking about how you had sex with your wife last night. It's not appropriate. But when you're on Facebook on your own time, I think that's a little different. In fact, it is a little different. It's a lot different. But now they're investigating. They're not investigating. They're watching the video and they're sitting around talking about it, getting overtime. This is what's infuriating. There was a guy in Salisbury. You guys probably remember this. I actually know him well, Danny Kane. I knew him growing up, who rolled down his window and yelled the N-word at a biracial couple. He didn't threaten them. He just yelled the N-word. The guy's a racist. Or maybe he's just pretending to be racist. I don't know. The police investigated him for 30 days. What does the authority, what does the government have anything to do with policing your speech? Because that's what this is. It's the government policing speech. I've got a whole video that's on my Facebook page right now that I want to do a whole show on, and I'm not going to get a chance to do it for 3 weeks. But I am going to get to it. A couple of weeks from now, I'm going to get to it. Where a couple of guys pretending to be with the FBI show up at a guy's house and want to talk to him about his social media posts. They come to find out they are actually with the FBI, but they're not FBI agents. They're like subcontracted. That's how the FBI does it. When they want to intimidate people for social media posts, they subcontract, they deputize like regular citizens, maybe former police officers or maybe even current police officers, and they send them to people's homes to intimidate them for social media posts. And then when it goes bad, they go, well, those guys aren't the FBI. They're not agents of our organization. What are you talking about?
Isn't that be good to mention?
What are you talking about? Your microphones are on. So, let's finish the rest of this clip because we've got one more thing to unpack.
It's going through the proper channels.
Though Banks's picture remains on the district website, Carney tells us she is not currently teaching and hasn't been here at all for the new school year.
We have hundreds of employees. It's an individual. There's things going on that I can't talk about, but that is by far not reflective of the Salem School District.
Superintendent Mara Palmer declined to comment.
I'm going to ask that you leave school property, please.
No, this is, you can roll. This is a public building and
Right.
a public meeting. And I know that in any other situation that news media are allowed here, all
Right.
sorts of media are allowed here. Is there a reason that we can't be here?
No, I have no comment. Thank you.
You have no comment?
King.
Meanwhile, Carney hopes the community knows the school committee takes this issue seriously.
Oh, very serious.
I would hope
we're taking
that
it so
the people of
serious.
Salem, everybody in Salem understands the values of the Salem School District.
The school committee held their regular meeting. This issue was not on the agenda.
Such word
in Salem,
salad
New Hampshire, Christine
babble.
McCarthy for your local station, Boston 25 News.
Wow, what? I could spend
Nation is on the
I could
Morgan.
spend a whole hour on this. I could literally spend a whole hour on this. Wow. First of all, I have to denounce. I hereby denounce. Everybody's supposed to denounce. We're all denouncing. I denounce. I don't want anyone to think that this is reflective of the Salem. It's just word salad. It's pablum. It means nothing. There's not one person on the planet looking at that going, wow, that means every single person in the Salem school district runs around using the N-word. There's not one person thinking that. You're such a moron. I'm sorry. You're chairman of the school committee, and you just adopted all this political pablum that you just spew out in public that means nothing to make it look like you're doing something. You're not doing anything. You're not doing anything, and the superintendent's not doing anything either. You're going to sit around for 30 days, then you're going to come up with what we all know you're going to do. You're going to try and fire her. Then she's going to file a lawsuit, and she's going to grieve it. The union's probably going to screw her because she used the N-word, and you're not allowed to do that. You don't have a free speech right to do that. And then they're going to try and fire her. Then she's going to sue the system, and she's going to end up with $1 million payday. By the way, the next thing we got to get to real quick. Who the hell do these people think they are throwing a reporter out of a public meeting? Do we not talk about that on this show like every single week? Every week. We talk about this. Every week. And here in Salem, New Hampshire, right here where I do my podcast, you've got the Mara Palmer, the superintendent of schools, telling a reporter that they can't be at a public meeting. And the best part is, it's not on the agenda. This whole issue is not on the agenda. So why are you throwing the reporters out? By the way, I checked after I watched this news report from Fox 25, and they should have pushed back. They should have walked in and forced that superintendent to arrest her for her First Amendment right. But they've got no fucking balls at Fox 25. Excuse my French, but they don't. If that was Tommy Duggan, I would have walked in there and forced him to arrest me. I don't know what those ads are, but they're pretty cool. I would have forced him to arrest me. But not Fox 25. Fox 25 left. So you've got a reporter who's supposed to be guarding the First Amendment at a public meeting, which, by the way, I checked, was being simulcast, was being podcast over the internet. It was streaming over the internet. But they threw the reporters out for this big secret meeting that nobody could see, that everybody was watching online. Why is that? I'll tell you why that is. Because the school system controls the microphone when they do this streaming. That's why it is. I get the audience members are all nodding in the right places, so I know I'm doing good. Shame. Shame on Salem. The stain on Salem is not that they have a teacher that used the N-word. The stain on Salem is the way they comport themselves. When the chairman of the school committee comes out with this, oh, this is not reflective. I denounce. They're not reflective. All this memorized crap that tells us nothing. You know what would have been nice? He could have come out and said, listen, she's got a First Amendment right to say it, but she might not have a First Amendment right to work here, and we're looking at that. That would have been something helpful for the. You would have taught the public something if you'd said that. But no, it's got to be the same memorized. You could go to Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and if a teacher used the N-word, you get the same exact behavior out of the superintendent and the same exact behavior out of the school committee chairman, because that's what these people do. They get into politics and they conform. They conform to the language, they conform to the concepts, and they conform to the bullshit that they feed you when they're talking to a microphone. Shame. Shame on all of them. I'm not going to have a chance to get to Methuen because I have two guests in the studio. But I will give you an update. Methuen Mayor Neil Perry has continued his friends and family plan. He's kind of like Verizon, right? The friends and family plan. And he has now hired, not only did he hire Councilor Jim McCarty's brother as the epidemiologist for the city of Methuen when he wasn't qualified. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. Every time I see Neil Perry, he swears at me and says, "You're an effing liar." He swears at me, "You're an effing liar." He was qualified because if you look at his resume, it says he's got a degree in, he took a class in life science or something like that. But he's not trained as an epidemiologist. You know what his experience supposedly was to become an epidemiologist? He made phone calls for 6 months during COVID and did contract tracing. You know what that means? That means if you got COVID during the whole COVID scare, they would call you like communists and say, "We want to know everybody you came in contact with." And then every name you gave them, they would call those people and say, "Hey, just want to let you know, Joe just came down with COVID, and he says he was with you yesterday, so you might have COVID too." And then they turn all that information over to the government. That qualified him to be an epidemiologist? No, of course it didn't. You know what made him qualify? He's Jim McCarty's brother. That's what made him qualified. That's what made him qualified. And now he's got a nice, cushy promotion. He got a nice, cushy job. And I can't remember the exact title off my head. I had it written down, but I deleted it by accident. It's like Human Services Director or something like that. And you know what his qualifications for that was? He did 6 months of plumbing. He did 6 months of plumbing, and he's Jim McCarty's brother. So the guy that ran for mayor, Mr. Mayor Integrity, Neil Perry, who always calls me a effing liar to my face. At least I admire him that he does it to my face. I really do. Like, I always walk away mad at him, but I go, you know what, but you got to give the guy credit. He doesn't say it, just say it behind my back. He says it to my face, so I do appreciate that. Yeah, so there's that. And then there's the David Consoli situation. They had at least 5 or 6 members of the businesses of Old Ferry Road who are really upset about the situation on Old Ferry Road. That story is on the Valley Patriot website and in this month's paper. And after 3 years or 4 years, Mayor Integrity is finally getting to it, even though he promised people 4 years ago he was going to do it. All right, so I got like 9 more things to get to, but in the studio with me today, they took 37,000 pages of notes. They're not going to use any of them. Trust me when I tell you. It's going to be a very easy interview. They're writing books over there. The Bible's got nothing on you guys, ladies. All right, so I have Joyce and GraceMarie Tomaselli, Cookie, who we lovingly call the Salisbury sisters. They're actually my editors, and we've been covering a story with them for the last 10 years, 15 years?
Since 2013.
So do the math, because I went to Lawrence High School. 11 years on the fake sewer betterment where the town literally stole $9 million from the ratepayers. I understand, I'm going to let you guys talk about this. I understand they finally tore down your property. You sued, you lost, you sued again, you lost, you appealed, you lost, you appealed to that appeal, that lost, then you appealed to the appeal of the appeal and that lost, then you went to Jean-Luc Picard and the United Federation of Planets over on Kronos and you lost that, and then you appealed that, and then God came down and you lost that. So now they're tearing down your building, right?
Correct.
And so I wanted you guys to just talk about the process of how they literally tried to steal money from you. And they stole money from the other ratepayers. And they actually did steal money from you because when they took your property, the value of your property was more than what you owed the town. And they kept the balance. So talk about that.
All right. Well, GraceMarie. All right, so.
Cookie.
All right, I guess, how did this all begin? When we bought our property in 1991, there were no liens and no encumbrances. I'm not an attorney. We trusted our attorney. Well, it turned out that we were charged over $40,000 for sewer betterment, sewer user fees, etc. We had a wonderful restaurant. It took us 1.5 years to open the restaurant. The town made us jump through hoops. Couldn't understand why the town would do that to 2 people who bought property that had been a restaurant since the 40s, but they did it to us. Thank goodness I did have money, and we continued paying whatever we had to pay to bring the building to their satisfaction. We finally opened September 12th, 1992. And immediately we started getting more and more sewer bills, and we started questioning it. Well, it turned out that on New Year's Eve, December of 1994, the town told us at 11 o'clock on a Friday, if you don't come up with $19,000 for the sewer bills, you're going to be closed tomorrow night. That's how we found out. So we had an ongoing restaurant with 20 people or so working there. We were all employed, and we lost our livelihood. He said we had to have that money by 1 o'clock that day. Well, I couldn't come up with $19,000. Impossible. I thought it was temporary, but it wasn't. And that's when we started to ask questions. We found out they started to claim that I said, well, I didn't know about the sewer betterment. They said...
Can you explain to people at home what a betterment is?
Okay, what it is, it's the construction of the sewer when they do the pipes in the underground and then the laterals to the house. That means that you have to see that the cement is ripped, so you would know that. So they said that it was in 1992. I said, but we bought the property in 1991, and there was no construction going on. So finally, asked them what was the date of the construction, and they said March 16, 1992. I knew that wasn't true, or you might want to call it a lie. So now we started investigating, and Tom Duggan was right. We did go to the Department of Revenue and asked them, how do you determine a betterment? They said Chapter 80, Chapter 83. They said you need the date of the vote to construct. The town kept giving us 1992. Freeman Condon put it in writing. Chuck Takesian, they were all on this board. People that used to come to our restaurant now are lying to us. We started to uncover. Well, it turned out it took us 15 years. We'll do this in a few seconds. In 15 years, we found out that the EPA, the state, and the federal government had paid for this $18 million sewer project. So when we found out that it was paid, I went to the selectmen and said, and Neil Harrington, the town manager, and I said, give us back our restaurant license so that we can reopen our Manjara Cafe restaurant. He said, well, they didn't, he said, how did he word it? I'm trying to think.
You have to go to court.
Oh, yeah, that's how he said it. You're going to have to go to court. So we did. We went to the appellate tax board. That's court number 1. We went to 21 courts, which is what Tom was saying. So
I said it much funnier than you did, though.
yeah, well, I'm not funny. After you've been beaten up for 31 years, you're not too funny. So anyway, it turned out that we did go to the appellate tax board, and then next thing you know, they started land court. And I called the town and said, why are you starting land court when we're going to court next week? And Neil Harrington's office, Neil Harrington said, if you drop your appellate tax board case, we'll drop the land court case. So now we knew we were being intimidated. So now they...
Do you wish now, looking back, do you wish now that you had taken that deal?
Well, I asked him, put it in writing. I said, put it in writing that you'll drop the land court case. They would not. So that's why the next week when
and isn't it true that you tried to pay your taxes and they wouldn't take the check because they wanted to apply it to your betterment? And when you refused, when you said, no, this has to go to my taxes, they called the police and gave you your check and escorted you out?
Yes, they did. They did that as well. So just so that I'll connect that, remind me in case. So when we went to court, now, Neil Harrington knew that 18 million minus 18 million paid in grant equals 0. And the town would charge the people $7.8 million plus 8.05% interest. I might be off a couple of degrees here. So now when we went to court, they claimed under oath, Donald Levesque, the town manager, Neil Harrington was there, Cheryl Gillespie, the assessor, and town council, Thomas McEnany from Kopelman and Page, now KP Law, the biggest law firm around for municipal law, claimed under oath that this project was $80 million. under oath, and 90% grant funded. Do the math. That means they got $72 million from the federal government. In the 80s, that didn't sound right. We contacted EPA. EPA put it in writing. It was not $80 million, it was $18 million, and 100% grant funded. That was the beginning, like Tom said. So now we said we didn't owe for this, so I'm going to give you the check for $15,492.04, which will bring us current. They took the check, wouldn't cash it. Tom wrote another story. He listened to the video. One of the selectmen, may he rest in peace, Tony Papulia, said to Neil Harrington, he said, these people paid $15,000 so they can reopen their restaurant. Are we that rich in Salisbury we don't cash people's checks? And Neil Harrington on the video said, we have a folder this thick and this high, and the check is on the top. We never cashed it. So Tom had another story. Why didn't the town?
I made a lot of money on this story, by the way.
Good. So now, and you deserved it, because he believed us. Of course he believed us as long as we had the documents.
Not out of the gate, though. Out of the gate, people think that, like, if they just call me on the phone and tell me a story, I'm going to write it. And somebody actually made that mistake this week, too. And they call me and they tell me their story, and they think that I'm just going to hang the phone up, write their side of the story, and they're going to get their side of the story out.
No.
And what I found after doing journalism for 30-something years is that people lie. And they will tell you, even though the crux of what they're telling you is true, they pepper lies into it to make them look better than they really are, or to make the other side look worse than they really are. So I met these ladies in Newburyport. I was actually the guest speaker at a I don't know if it was a Republican committee meeting or if it was a Tea Party meeting, but it was some group. There was over 100 people. When I was done, they were lingering near the door. I'm like, I'm never going to get out of here with those two ladies over there. I'm looking for the back entrance, an emergency exit. I went over and I asked the lady who hosted. I'm like, is there any way I can get out of here without getting by those two? Because I could tell you would just linger. You were looking at me, and there was no way I was going home that night. It was going to be a long night. And so they followed me to my car.
No, I didn't. The back of the hall.
They followed me to my car, and they kept talking to me, and I said, look, I'll tell you what. I'm spent. My brain is gone. I've been doing this all night. Come by my office. Give me some documents. I'll start looking at them. And they did. They came by, and they gave me a stack of documents this big. And it became my pet project. I started grabbing every once in a while, like I'd have for 3 a.m, nothing to do. I'd grab a packet out of the pile, and I'd start reading land court decisions and tax appellate court rulings and motions and all of this stuff, and I'm highlighting things, and it took, what, about a year?
Right, September 2013.
It took about a year, and about a year later, I'm sitting at my desk. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, and I got the appeal of the land court decision, and I read a paragraph, and I won't forget this. I read a paragraph that basically spelled out the fact that the town billed the sewer ratepayers for 10% of the project, got reimbursed 90% by the EPA, but lo and behold, they also got reimbursed the other 10% by the state Mass Department of Environmental Protection. So they got 90% from the state, 90% from the federal government, 10% from the state, and then they billed the ratepayers, the people using sewer, another 10%, but at the end of the year, the balance on their budget was zero. There should have been $9 million more because they got paid twice for the extra 10%.
They double dipped.
But the money was missing. The money wasn't there. And that's when I called them at 2 a.m. I woke them up and I said, ladies, I don't know what you're doing tomorrow, but clear your schedule. I need you here. I need you to give me a timeline. I need to know what's going on with this. I think I know what's going on here. They literally stole $9 million from the ratepayers of Salisbury.
Plus interest. Over 20 years.
And since then, I've written probably about 12 stories on this, easily. Because they just keep lying. They keep lying and they keep doing more stuff.
Right. And when Tom asked about the check, when we were escorted out more than once, Joyce and I were asking questions about the Sewer Enterprise Fund, which most people don't know about, but they said they had a $28,000 deficit. My sister's brilliant when it comes to this. She said that's impossible. So when we were asking questions, something simple like, how much do you have in the Sewer Enterprise Fund? They called the police on us. This was all erased from their from their video. They called the police. The two of them escorted us out. The police said, we're really rooting for you. We didn't want to do this, but we had to do it. So they took us out. In the meantime, it was like a movie. One man came over. He said, my wife told me to come over and help you because they're squirming. They're squirming in there, that board. Well, my sister, thank God, she contacted the Department of Revenue. Public records request. How much do they have in the sewer enterprise fund? Now remember, we have a PowerPoint with minus $28,000. So she contacts the public records, for the public records, the DOR. Guess how much, Tom?
$9 million.
$24.5 million. That's why they got rid of us. So now we knew what they were doing. Then I went to pay my check. They wouldn't cash it. Then I went to pay my check another time. They had me wait an hour. The clerk wouldn't take my check, I had to wait for the tax.
All right, so we don't want to go through the whole history of everything, right?
This is when they called us out, the tax collector.
So where are we now? How did Joyce hasn't talked a lot, so Joyce
she's really.
So where are we now? They're tearing down your building. You got nothing out of any of this. Is there any more appeals? Is there any more anything you guys can do? Or is it just over?
Maybe
they got away with it.
Oh, it's not over. It will never be over.
Well, for you, it'll never be over. But in the real world, Joyce.
Well, I don't know. Maybe Joyce can
we're
talk.
trying.
Joyce hasn't said two words. Will you rev her up? She'll
she was
be here till
speaking.
tomorrow.
Okay. We're still trying. We've been contacting some attorneys. There was a home equity law that was passed, and that time barred us with a 3-year statute of limitations. So we're trying to see what we can do to rectify that unfair law.
But unconstitutional.
Home equity theft is unconstitutional, and by Massachusetts putting a time bar, they're allowing an unconstitutional action prior to the 3 years.
Right.
So this is what we're fighting now.
So the Supreme Court said, this was a great ruling too, I think we wrote about this.
You did.
Yeah,
the Supreme
Tyler
Court
versus
said
Hennepin.
that if the town, if you owe $10,000 on your business or your home, and the town takes your property to pay that, they can't sell it and keep the balance. They've got to give you the balance. They can only take what they're owed. This always bothered me, even when banks do this. You put a lot of equity into your home, and then you miss a couple of payments, and they take your house, but you don't get any of what you put in back. It just seems to me like theft. It always seemed to me like theft. And the Supreme Court, thank God we've got a great Supreme Court right now. The Supreme Court said that municipalities, government agencies, if they take property, can only take the amount of money once it's sold that they are owed, and they have to give the rest back to. But Massachusetts said, well, wait a minute, if we go back 100 years, we'll be broke. Which, by the way, is a lie, because they're giving so many billions to illegal aliens. We know that they'll just print more money. But they say, oh, well, we'll be broke. So they put a cap on it of 3 years, which would exempt you guys, and that means you guys will never get anything out of this.
Right. They sold it for $775,000, and we didn't get a penny.
And the wrong bill was $50,000. The wrong bill that we didn't owe was $50,000. And Judge Gordon H. Piper, let this all be heard, that judge ruled incorrectly. He used the 1992 date that the bill went out, and by law, it has to be 1982, the date of the vote to construct the sewer. He used the wrong date, and then he actually added the town's legal fees to our bill. So he made our $50,000 wrong bill turn into $251,000.
Wow.
The town sold the property at $775,000. I went to that auction. It broke my heart, but I went because I wanted Capola and Capola law firm to know, and the tax collector and the town manager, Neil Harrington. I wanted them to see my face and know that they stole this property from us. This isn't just home.
Yeah, but they don't care. You think that they care. You're like, oh, they'd have to look at my face. Like somehow they're going to feel shame. They feel no shame.
No,
these people don't feel any shame.
No, but
look at what Lisa Pearson did. None of these people in government have any shame at all, because they know at the end of the day, no matter what you do, they're still getting paid. It's not going to come out of their pocket. They don't effing care. They don't.
I think it's because they have immunity.
Right. Right. It's not going to come out of their pocket. Right? So, I mean, at the end of the day, you can have like that FBI thing I was talking about. You know, they can rough somebody up all they want. At the end of the day, they're not going to pay a price for that. there'll be a lawsuit. The town will get sued. The agency will get sued. Somebody else will get sued. And the taxpayers will pay for it.
That's right. Well, what we did do, thanks to Tom and
you got 30 seconds.
He really wants public records transparency. It's a big deal for him. And honesty in government. That includes everybody, including attorneys. And we found out attorneys in our state are protected by the litigation privilege, absolute immunity. We wrote a Senate bill last year. It didn't pass, naturally, but we're doing it again. So please keep your eyes posted. Our prior bill was Senate Bill 1131.
It's called,
maybe together we can do something.
It's called an Act to Strengthen Rules Governing Attorney Conduct and Penalties for Misconduct. I hope that it passes. And I just want to interject.
It's over.
USDA paid almost $2 million for the grant, over and above the state and EPA. So thank you very
for
much.
having us.
We want to thank you for everything.
Well, I mean, listen, I will go to my grave defending the First Amendment. I will go to my grave defending public records. We don't have a free country if people in government are allowed to do what those idiots in Salem here are doing in the schools, what Lisa Pearson's doing in Salisbury, what the mayor in Haverhill is doing, certainly what Mayor Neil Perry in Methuen is doing. You lump them all together, it's just one big cesspool of corruption no matter where you go.
You're right.
I say this all the time. If I had the money to hire 10 full-time investigative journalists, I still could not get to every corruption story that comes across my desk in a week. Seriously, that's how bad it is out there. I mean, you even look at like the MSPCA. Everyone thinks the MSPCA is so wonderful. They save puppies. They don't save puppies. They kill animals. They're a kill shelter. But you know how they get around it? They get around it because the legal definition of a kill shelter is that they only kill a certain percentage of animals that come in, and they're under that threshold, so now they can call themselves not a kill shelter. Sorry, you can't be not a kill shelter by redefining a kill shelter. If you're killing an animal, you're a kill shelter. And it all goes together. Like, it sounds like I'm jumping around, but I'm not. It's all the same animal. It's all the same thing. It's people trying to deceive the public into thinking that there's something going on that isn't, or that there isn't something going on that is. And here in Salisbury, they screwed the taxpayers for more than $9 million, the ratepayers for $9 million. And at the end of the day, that money went somewhere, but it wasn't in the budget. The budget was balanced to zero at the end of that year. I remember checking more than once. So the money went somewhere.
That's right. We went to the FBI, the Attorney General, Inspector General.
That's a waste. It's a waste.
It's a waste.
Once you've got one agency of government out to get you, they all fall in line with them, not with you. They pretend that they're here to be the stopgap for you, but they're not here. They're not here to protect you. They're here to protect
themselves.
They're there to protect the power of government, and that's what it's all about. Because we are no longer in the free speech country that we thought we were in. All right, I know we're way past time.
If we didn't have people like Tom Duggan who are willing to take the time and not just talk about it, but they research. He worked really hard to write our stories.
Took me a year to write that story.
He really did. And I have to say thank you so much for Public Records, because they wanted $1,250 for one piece of paper.
Yeah.
And he helped us to get it down to $25.
Well, yeah, because the bill that I wrote that got passed, by the way, keep submitting that, because I submitted my public records bill 4 times before it finally got passed. So keep submitting it, even if it keeps losing, keep submitting it. We do have to go. We're way, way, way over time, and I appreciate Chrissy for allowing me to do that. You can roll up, Mel. I want to thank, let's jump around here a little bit. We'll do a little out of order. Pleasant Valley Landscaping Contractors. Dave Idconsoli was supposed to be here today, and I forgot that I had double booked. I had the sisters coming in. So we were going to have him on a subsequent show. Zany Pesci Law Office, Zany Pesci, Pescherou. What is it? She doesn't even know anymore. Century 21 McLennan Real Estate, Marston & Son Construction, EIS Investigation and Gun Trading, Tomo and Shaken Seafood, Clear Path for Veterans New England, a real nonprofit that helps veterans without stealing money off the top for themselves. AFC Urgent Care, Zaka will be in here next week. Patrick's Eatery, Patrick's North Shore Eatery, used to be Harrison's Roast Beef on 125 North Andover. Prime Insurance, North Reading. Chris's Barbershop in Salem, New Hampshire. Enterprise Bank, W3ON. 4-star lighting, a free shout out to them. A&J Goodwin Plumbing. And our newest sponsor, Bonfire Wellness Centers of North Andover. Sounds like Melvin Taylor says you got to go home. So go home already.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.